Hello everyone, and welcome to this tips and tricks video for my time at Portia. I hope to be able to show you a lot of different interesting things about this game, so here we go. One of the things I'm often asked on my channel is, Lion, how do you deal with the Hazardous Ruins bosses? Well, they each have their own patterns, and once you learn those patterns, they're actually not too difficult to deal with. But until you learn those patterns, they can murder you pretty badly. So let's start here at the Hazardous Ruins, and let's go through each one of these monsters one by one. For this particular ruins here, for Hazardous Ruins number 1, you only have to deal with one boss. And that's this guy right here. This is Chemical Dropout. He has a number of different attacks, and he also has 2 different stages to him. So let's go over each one of his attacks and each of his stages one by one. The first thing we're going to want to pay attention to is his standard shot. As you can see, he fires this blast of green goo at you, and if it hits you, of course, it's going to hurt you. It's very easy to avoid this. As you can see, you can simply run to the side, and it will miss you every time. The second attack he has is a little bit tougher. That is a swing and a slam. This can do a lot of damage to you, and timing your rolls is going to be important. But the way you avoid it is simply dodge, dodge. You do a roll and a roll. And as long as you time them appropriately, he'll never hit you. Now watch the attack. And turn, and then do you see the timing? He winds up, roll, and wind up, roll. You pay attention to the wind up and just time your roll. Also, I should note that naturally I am much more powerful than this guy, and obviously this particular fight isn't much of a threat for me. For you, you're going to depending on your level, you might have a lot more difficulty with his hits than I do. Naturally, I can absorb his hits a lot better. At lower levels, he can be quite tricky, and his hits can be quite powerful. Now we're on to the second level of his attacks, and as you can see, it's a long gusher of green goop. It is very difficult to avoid this, and you want to do it by dodging, rolling like this, but as you can see, it's not entirely effective. Your best defense against this is actually to get inside. As you can see, he can't touch you in here. However, what you do have to worry about is his other attack, which is a single blast that he hits you with at point blank. Watch. As you can see, it knocks me back, which allows him to be able to do that gusher hit again. You're going to want to be able to roll straight back in as soon as he tries to fire. Watch for the wind up and roll. Wind up, roll. Wind up, roll. Wind up, roll. It's not too difficult to time his hits. You just have to get used to it. And then you just step inside of his range and he can no longer hit you. I'm going to go ahead and finish him off now. And down he goes. As you can see, once you get his patterns down, he's not too difficult. You do have to worry about his hits, especially at lower level, but once you get his patterns down, it's not too tough. These are Hazardous Ruins number 2, and there are 2 different bosses here. One, the Digger A.K.A., which is on level 1 and 3, and the second is the piggybot 007, which currently is only on level 2, but in the future will most likely be on level 4. As of this particular video, level 4 hasn't been created yet, but the speculation is piggybot will most likely be on level 4. Let's check out these 2 bosses. This spidery looking fellow down here is called the Digger A.K.A. He's also known as Rock On. I guess that's supposed to be some sort of pun on the fact that he's a digger robot. A lot of people have trouble with him and consider him to be the more difficult of the 2 Hazardous Ruins 2 bosses. But once you learn his patterns, once again, it's not terribly difficult. Let's analyze him. So let's start with the ranged method. You take your snake bite, and of course you're going to start fighting the guy. And you're going to basically hit and run. You can get him multiple times and stay out of his general range. This allows you to be able to avoid his melee attacks. He's only a melee bot, so it's not too difficult to simply keep him at range and blast away. Now personally, I don't like this method because the amount of damage the snakebite does isn't generally as much as your melee, and I usually only use this method if I'm really badly hurt at this point. What I prefer is the Nova Sword, or another sword of your particular choice. You don't need the Nova Sword in order to fight this guy. He's not that difficult. Now, how do you fight him hand to hand? Well, simply like this. You strike and fade away. As you can see, he has two different types of attacks. One of them is the drill, which is very pinpoint and does a lot of damage. The other is that double-armed swipe, as you can see, which is much more widespread, doesn't do quite as much damage, but can still hit you from a long distance away. So what you want to do, run in, strike, roll away. Run in, strike, roll away. You can get 3 hits on him if you like, and that works too. I prefer 2. You can also fight him with a slower weapon, such as the Warhammer or the Lion's Claws, but personally, hammer weapons and fist weapons are too slow for my tastes. While you can certainly fight with them, it becomes a lot more dangerous of a proposition. And you have to be a little more careful with him. Otherwise, he'll be able to hit you on the return hit. Now, you may have noticed that that Rock On over here has stopped fighting me. That's because once he hits 50% damage, he simply stops. I don't know why that is. Perhaps it's a glitch in the game. Perhaps it's a glitch in the monster. Maybe this is working as intended. I don't know. But for whatever reason, once this guy gets below 50%, he simply stops moving. I can stand under him, run up against him, do anything I want to him, and nothing's going to happen. At this point, I can simply beat on him for as long as I want to. And I'll be able to beat on him until he reaches roughly about 30%. So you have 20% of this guy's health of no worries about getting hit. So feel free to wail away on him as much as you like. However, once you get him down to 30%, that's when things start getting a little bit trickier. As you can see, he turns into a carnival ride. This little teacup spinny thing that he's doing right now can hit pretty hard and hit you multiple times. Let me go ahead and show you. Oh, that time wasn't a good... There we go. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7... Oh, see? He hit me like, gosh, what was that, 8 times? Now, my particular defense is up pretty high, so it didn't hurt me that badly. But at lower levels, that can really hit you hard and can really mess you up. The other attack he has, let's see if we can get him to do it. Now, this is the second attack that he has, where he kind of turns himself into a Ferris wheel. Like I said, this guy's a carnival ride. Now, that Ferris wheel attack allows him to move a little bit forward, but honestly, he tends to just spin in place, as you can see. He's not going anywhere. But if he hits you with that spin attack, it hits pretty darn hard. So just be aware that that particular attack can hurt you pretty badly. But again, it's as easy to dodge as the other. All you have to do is roll out of the way and get out of his reach. And then just come back and hit him again. Let's go ahead and finish him off. And just like that, down he goes. This third boss here is called the piggybot-007. Considered to be the easier of the two bosses in the Hazardous Ruins number 2. And again, once you learn his patterns, he's not too difficult. But bear in mind, do not turn your back on this guy. While he is easy to avoid, he hits like a truck, and he has a lot of hit points. So let's go over his particular movements, and let's see how we can fight him. Once again, you can fight this guy at range. As a matter of fact, of the 3 bosses, he's the easiest to keep at range. But honestly, you don't want to do that. This guy has an enormous amount of hit points, and it would take a huge number of shots to be able to use your little triple barrel snake bite to knock him down. Your best bet is to use either your sword or your hammer weapons. And in this particular case, it's not that important as to which one you want to use. I prefer quicker weapons, so I'm going to go ahead and use my Nova sword, but at one point I'll switch over to my hammer just to show you what it's like. Let's go ahead and take him on, and let's analyze his attacks. As you can see, he just did both of them. One is the breath weapon attack, which is this blast of steam. This does a lot of damage to you and also stuns you. So if you get caught in the blast, you're there and you're going to keep getting hit. You can roll out of it if you're lucky, but you're going to take a lot of damage doing it. The other attack he does is that rolling spin. And this you want to avoid like the plague. That rolling spin, if you're not careful, can one-shot you. It doesn't matter how many hit points you have, the amount of hit damage this thing does is enormous. I have been one-shotted by that spin attack simply by bad luck. I was right in front of him, took the full brunt, and I was one-shotted. And as you can see, I have nearly 1,600 health. So be very, very cautious of that rolling attack. Now, you can simply avoid the attacks by running side to side, or if you're up close, you can spin to the side here, just like any other rolling attack. A lot of people say the best way to attack him is to hit him from behind, like this. And that's true. You just roll to the side of him, and you hit him from behind. The minute he turns back around to you again, roll to the side, and attack him again. Now, one thing people don't realize is that the more damage Piggybot takes, the faster he gets. And I believe he hits harder as well, although I don't have any definitive numbers on that. But I can tell you that his movements start getting a lot, well, not a lot faster, but a little bit faster. And so it can throw you off a bit if you're used to his particular speed, and you've been depending on him to be that speed the entire time. See, if I wasn't careful there, he might have caught me there if I wasn't careful. But also, as you can see, it's not tough avoiding his attacks. You can simply roll to the side the minute he faces towards you, and then start hitting him. Just make sure you don't overcommit. Do not underestimate this guy. You do not want to get struck with him dead on. He will kill you in a single hit. Again, once you learn his patterns, he's not too difficult. You simply hit him on the side. Just don't get caught in front of him. Bad news. And that pretty much wraps up all 3 of the Hazardous Ruins bosses. Once you get their patterns down, they're not too difficult. You don't want to turn your back on them because they do hit pretty hard. After all, they're bosses. But once you get their patterns down, you should be able to start farming them with relative ease and be able to get past them. I hope this has been useful for you, and if it has, do the liking and the subscribing and the sharing on the social media. You guys are the best fans in the world. Thank you so much for watching, and as always, everyone, always remember that anyone can be a mouse that roars, but it takes someone special to be a lion that squeaks. So embrace your inner lion and squeak on! And go kill some bosses.